indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alrighty there, welcome to our regular City Commission meeting of June the 17th. Just a couple of reminders before we get started. If folks intend to speak tonight, they need to be signed up. So we're going to try to be a little bit more disciplined about that. So if you want to speak tonight, please make sure you're signed up. I won't call on people that are not signed up to speak. Also, when it's time to speak, please use a microphone, and we'll limit to 3 minutes. Okay, Commissioners, with that, first item on our agenda is to take a look at our meeting minutes from May the 20th. You all have these meeting minutes, and I'll give you another opportunity here just to look them over one more time, and then I'll ask for a motion in a second to approve the minutes of our meeting on May the 20th, 2025. Okay, Commissioners, can I get a motion and a second to get these minutes up for discussion?
Make a motion to accept the minutes for May 2025.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any corrections or additions that we need to make to these minutes? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of accepting the minutes for our meeting on May 20th, 2025, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. Next item on our agenda is the finance report, and I'll turn to Interim City Manager Gayla Webb.
Okay, now we'll pull up the operating statement for May. You'll see that we budgeted for total income of $113,000. We came in at $122,000. Part of that is for the sale of capital outlay for $9,100. That was for the largest of the bad boy mowers that we had on gov deals. We didn't quite make budget for our local sales tax. Right at it or a little under on others. Court fines, they did make theirs a little over, but nothing really out of the extreme. Going on to expenses, nothing on that first page. If you look down through on page 2, most of the departments, city court, they're a little under on their budget. If you look at city attorney, we budgeted for $1,750. We did $7,000. Personnel administration, right at it. Building and codes is under $9,000 for the community plan for the month of May. They are going to put a pause on that to let East Tennessee Development District get their one going, so we won't have any more billing until the next fiscal year for the community plan. City Hall operations is under, moving on to page 3. Other government expenses, you'll notice our liability insurance went up. We budgeted for $18,900, it's $29,000. Just the premiums went up. Lease administration, nothing out of the ordinary there. Fire department fee, public works, they were under budget. State street aid, we didn't have very much, just minor patching. Parks and Rec was a little over, mainly just because of the bike trail maintenance and porta potties. And our debt service on our loan for City Hall was due at $772. So bottom line is we budgeted for negative net income of negative $46,000, and we came in at negative $37,000. A little bit better.
Okay, thank you, City Manager. So we netted some on the sale of capital equipment, and we are over pretty significantly on the city attorney. I will say that some of this is expected on the city attorney. We have been requesting a lot of review by the city attorney, but at the same time, while expected, it does worry me a little bit. So I think we need to be cautious about, how we use city attorney, but we need the city attorney to give us guidance. And so he has been up here a number of times over the last probably 6-8 months to give guidance to the city commissioners and to review lots of documents. And so it does concern me, the rate at which we're going through city attorney. So I feel like we're getting good advice and good value for money, but it does give me some pause that we are having to be so engaged with the city attorney. I don't think there's any way other to do that other than we'll just have to adjust the budget and probably budget for additional city attorney time.
And that's actually the budget amendment we'll be talking about later.
Okay. All right, and then liability insurance, holy smokes.
Yeah.
We budgeted for $18,900, and this month it comes in at $29,529. Is this the beginning of a policy increase, or? Yeah.
Yeah, that's for the premium. It
Yeah,
just,
okay. I know my homeowner's insurance has gone up at home, but is there anything that we've done to increase our liability?
I can't think of anything that would have made it go that far, so maybe that suit that we were involved in.
Yeah.
But it wasn't mentioned that that was the cause of any of it. I think it's just premiums overall, and last year they didn't do all day long.
Yeah.
So it could just be 30 year.
Yeah, I don't know. We took on another city park, so, when we had the special people's park, I anticipated that might increase our insurance premium.
Yeah. We have other equipment too, with the drum and stuff that we're covering as well.
Okay. How often do we shop it around in terms of our insurance?
We haven't shopped at all
In a while.
since started here.
Are you with TML, correct?
So.
Are you with TML?
DEP, Public Entity Partners.
So it's a pool.
Yeah.
You're in a pool. So you probably can't afford, you could probably shop a pool, but you can't afford insurance product.
Yeah.
And the
Not
pools
really
are
any
hurting.
options to do that.
Pools are hurting right now. The state legislators trying to force, like in the county, trying to force us into a pool. We're self-insured, but they're hurting. Most pools across the state are really hurting. So it's probably nothing the city did, they're trying to stay afloat.
All right, commissioners, that's all my observations and questions. Do y'all have anything further on
I'll let them point out the operating statement of Commissioner Martin. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh.
It's okay.
that? More than happy to share. While you're taking a look at that, could you give us a report on the charter of accounts?
Sure. And general funds just under 600,000, street funds at 210, drug funds holding at 4,800, and accessibility 650.
Accessibility was what?
1,650, 1,650.
Okay. Sorry, Commissioner Martin, I didn't give you much time, but any questions or? Okay, thank you very much. All right, can I have a motion to approve the finance report?
I'll make a motion to approve the finance report.
Okay, have a second?
Second.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second. Commissioners, any other questions on the finance report? Okay. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed?
I abstain, because we didn't have any of this information. We didn't have any information on the
Okay. Commissioner Hedrick is abstaining because we didn't hand out any information to the public. City manager, was this available? It was on our agenda. Is this available to folks if they wanted to come in and request
Come
it?
in and request it.
Okay. Okay, I understand. All right. Okay, so if we could report report that the finance report was approved with all in favor and Commissioner Hedrick abstaining. Okay, let's move on to the interim city manager report.
Don't have very much. I just wanted to get any feedback from any of that information I sent y'all about the text I got. I sent y'all the packet of the proposal from that. Wanted to see if you liked it, if you hated it, what have you.
I'm steering more back towards the app, besides the text my gov, just because we do have a lot of visitors and they would be more apt to use the app. That's something we could put in, the motels when they check in and have it available for them to put the app more than them having to enter their information for a text. So I think it would be well utilized to do the app still. And we did budget for that, is that correct, in our upcoming budget?
Yeah, there's money in the IT budget for both.
Okay.
Okay.
For both, or?
Well, whichever one you decide to go, yeah. The app and the website was a little more cost up front, whereas the text like that was not.
Well, and the only costs were not quite as much.
Right. But the text might have the deal that they gave, only lasted until I think the 19th. So they were wanting a yes or no tonight. But I'll let them know and touch back with them after the fiscal year starts. Tell them that if you would rather go with the app, I don't know that we'll get a better deal with the app. I think they gave you pretty much the bottom line deal there.
Other feedback?
I was more geared toward the app as well, and I think Chief Condi was too. Especially since it ties into the website, because the text MyGov doesn't.
No, it's just strictly people sign up for it, put in their login code, then they can start. They can sign up for whatever group that they want to get a chat or a text from or a notification. But, like I said, the app, it just depends on how much money you want to go. With the app, you do get the website
Yeah.
integrated, so it'd be a fresh new look, probably be a little more user-friendly and accessible.
Yeah.
Do you have any comments from the county side?
Well, not necessarily the county side, but from the fire side. I think that would be a big help either one, especially the app. Now, there is, Blount County EMA does have access to iPods network, which you get your Amber alerts on. So if we had to do an evacuation, that push it out. What that does is that hits the certain cell towers. So everybody, whether you're signed up before or not, it'll ping your phone. But they are, that is through U.S., the FEMA, and that's not something you can use for, hey, everything's okay. That's something you have to use when, hey, it's time to go, and get you to evacuate. So having something that we can communicate, and living in this day and age, everybody, especially with Facebook, which I wish that we could push a button and turn that crap off, but everybody thinks they deserve to know right now. And so everybody gets anxious if they're not. So they start calling us, they start calling you, they start calling Chief Condi. And so I understand everybody want to know, but it's not always been that way. But now there's that expectation to know. And so the best way to get that out, I don't have time, Chief Condi doesn't have time. And then people get upset in the back end. We didn't know what to do. We would have told you, but if it comes to evacuation. But I think it's good to get that out to let people know, and that's what the app's going to help.
Thank you, Chief. Other feedback? Well, I think, my inclination is that I think it would be useful to have an app, maybe even useful to have the text thing, but I might be leaning toward the app. So I think we're all in general agreement on that, but it's expensive. There's a little bit of upfront. It's not cheap upfront, but my concern was it obligates the city to another $5,000–6,000 a year. You can't just stand it up and decide later that you're going to turn it off. So it does start to create an expectation that you'll continue that service to our residents. So we would be taking on an additional $5,000-6,000 a year, or whatever it costs in our budget to maintain that. One other thing occurred to me, and this is not, to say, we shouldn't do it, but it will require city staff time. And right now, we're super constrained on city staff time. But whenever we get ready to pull the trigger on this, in addition to the upfront cost, in addition to taking on the yearly cost, we need to make sure that we're positioned to have city staff time to support it, because it will require that, I think, to work it effectively. So it's just another sort of cost that I think we need to consider. So I'm happy to consider this. I know we got it in the budget to look at. I'm not really concerned that we need to make some decision on the text my gov tonight. That's just my thoughts. Sounds like some of y'all have the same thoughts. Here's your feedback.
All right, sounds good. The only other thing I wanted to bring up is I recently talked to someone at the state level for the tourism department, and we were discussing the hotel motel tax and how we could levy. I think he said we could levy up to 8%, but I mean, even if we levied 1%, which is what Maryville and Alcoa are doing, we could get about $180-something thousand a year from that. If we levied a 3%, compared to what counties get, I can't remember the exact number that they have and pull it off of, but if we did a levy of 3%, it would be about $500,000, about $500,000 a little more. Sweetwater just recently implemented, they went 3%. We have to spend it for tourism development. We did talk about that, but that did help with the special people's park, because that will be a tourism draw when people are here, because it'll be the only public access to the park in Townsend. So we can also help local nonprofits like the Maroon Museum, the Heritage Center, maybe update signage on the bike trail with the history of Townsend, stuff like that. I'm gonna reach out to the city administrator, Sweetwater, talk to them and get it all rolling and help. That's something I'd like to go.
What other items are in tourism development, like, you said bike trail, would it be mowing, would it be possibly fire department? What type of things are those?
That would not,
Tourism.
it would be for tourism. I mean, we could, like if the city wanted to just design and implement their own festival to draw people in, like another old time day, since they did away with the ceremony, that the city sponsors and is responsible for putting together, that it could be used for that. But we can also use to help other, like the Railroad Museum, Heritage Center, because they are a draw, and they do a lot of things, activities for the community.
I understand.
But it'll be a good chance to maybe get with the park. There's some grants coming up that start in July. We're going to start looking at those because he said that he would help us apply for those.
Yeah. I like the sound of this. I'd really like to ask you to continue to research an occupancy tax because even though it would require us to probably set up our own tourism development authority, I think we've talked about that over time, and it could be used for a number of the projects that we have in town that support our visitors and our residents alike. And so I think, that would make a lot of sense, particularly if other communities are already doing it.
Yeah.
It might just be something that we're sort of missing out on. But I would imagine we'd have to take some steps in terms of,
Yeah. Have to find out what those would be. Of course, it would have to be kept in a separate fund, just like our street fund.
right.
And could only be used for tourism development. And then there's reporting that you have to do annually to account for every penny that you spend for that.
The website, is that also?
I'd have to reach out to them, but I don't know. It could be, but I don't know if it would.
From my understanding, it has to, that tax has to draw people in to stay overnight, I think.
Right.
So you have
Kinda
to,
like-
it has to go for stuff that draws people in to spend the night in town.
Like if we wanted to do a ballpark that would attract travel teams coming in that travel from all over, having
Right.
these tournaments, that would be considered tourism. But just building a city park, that's kind of a stretch. But this down here, since it is the only public access, that is a tourism problem, because people,
Yeah,
you know,
right.
they come to use it, because they come to use the bike trail.
I think there are things that we're currently paying out of the city budget that would fit. And so if we had an additional revenue stream, that would
Yeah.
lighten up on our city budget a little bit, so.
Right.
I'd like to ask you to go ahead and continue to explore how we put that in place and, you know, what we need to do to
Okay.
advance that.
And that's all I
Other-
have.
Other questions on feedback on the occupancy tax?
So right now, the county's is 5%, correct?
I believe so.
So it would be, like, if we levied the 1%, then our hotels, campgrounds and stuff in the city would pay 6%, back to the county, one, potentially. Yeah,
But it's not even the locals,
Right.
it's the
it's the tourists.
tourists.
Okay.
But that would also help offset the app cost, correct?
And ultimately, you know, having that infrastructure and those things work and help our hotels and
Right.
visitors and things. So if you had an app and you had visitors, you know, that would help them as well. So it is something that, you know, would be,
We do have a lot of people that follow the social media that are not,
yeah.
they're not residents, a lot of them, the majority of them.
All right.
So,
Thank you very much for researching that.
and what,
Okay, commissioners, any other questions for interim city manager? Okay, here and now, we'll continue to move on. Police report, Chief Condi has submitted a police report, and I'll read it out here on behalf of Chief Condi. Tourist season is in full swing and traffic is heavy. The flow of traffic obviously is being impacted by the utility construction in the curbs. Not sure how much longer that is going to last. Otherwise, everything is going well with no major incidents. I want to reiterate my strong support for the phone app and linked website that we have previously presented to the Commission. I think this app and the website will offer a huge benefit to citizens. The initial cost of $10,000 in yearly maintenance thereafter is a minor expense, especially if you break those numbers down on a cost per user basis. The website alone, with its more user-friendly interface, would be enough to warrant this expenditure, but the phone app will be a game changer for the city. Important and sometimes critical information could be pushed out to the public in a timely manner with efficiency that hasn't existed to this point. The cost is built into the upcoming budget, and I'm asking you to please go ahead and give approval to start this project. Please keep Sergeant Rayburn and his family in your prayers, as both his parents are dealing with serious medical issues. Thanks, and stay safe, Chief Condi. Okay, Commissioner, I'm not sure I can answer any questions on behalf of Chief Condi, but there's his report. Okay, moving on, let's go to the fire department report. Chief Stallions.
And things are going really well. We're pretty busy as well. Other than that, we had 4 water rescues. Just had a crew get back from Sevier County. We went on mutual aid call to a structure fire that had weather like this, and when you're in turnout gear with SCBA on, I mean, even in perfect shape, you're 10, 15 minutes and you're about done. So they needed some manpower. We were happy and honored to provide a crew for them. We've got our repeaters back in, so radio communications are back where they need to be. You know, between the Bigfoot Festival, the Highland Games, the Smoky Mountain National Day Folks thing, and then we've probably had about $31,000 in revenue so far this year. I also want to say, you know, Dave's, the Smoky Mountain National truck event that they had, when he found out that we needed about the repeater was $10,000, by the way, to repair it. They had been pushing that out to different agencies and different nonprofit organizations, including us. All the nonprofits, including Helping Hands, said, hey, let's help them. We're good. Let's our share donated back to the fire department so they can pay for that repeater. Also, the Hendricks down here, you know, they've got their own little parking that they do. on parking events. Their grandson, granddaughter do that. Out of that they got from the Heritage Festival, they donated $2,000 of that to the fire department. So, you know, I know things get, you know, y'all don't always hear the best of what's going on, but we've got a great community. We really do, and we experience that in the fire department and the way they support us. You know, 10 is finishing up fire school, so they're going this weekend. They'll be going to the live burn at the Alcoa facility. That's a big deal, but just the community spirit. Townsend's a neat place, and we've got a great community that we live in. And like I said, just think about all the people that, when they knew we needed something, came together and supported us. It's a true community effort, and we really do appreciate it. But just let you know how special a place Townsend really is.
Thank you, Chief. Of course, our fire department is very important to us, and it's really good to hear, you know, how folks are pitching in and helping to meet those needs along with so many others. So we have a lot of goodwill in Townsend, and we're certainly blessed. So thank you for reminding that and highlighting some of those things. Commissioners, any questions for Chief Stallion?
Just to add that our next big event for the fire department will be the 4th of July, so hope to see everybody out and participating in the 4th of July festivities.
And it's actually on the 4th of July. Yes.
That's where everybody always asks, when are the fireworks? 4th of July. I don't care if it's Tuesday, Sunday, or Wednesday. It's 4th of July.
All right. Well, that's very good. Maybe I will pause here and ask about how our preparations are coming for 4th of July.
So, I'll let you get. So, Captain Scarborough is setting that up for me. We talked about it today. So he's getting everything put together, reaching out to people that need to reach out. We've got the launchers assigned. He's checking with Will Campbell who gets the fireworks, and with Don saying about the music. So we'll be ready to roll. But I want this. Well, the first is, you know, also we have one year of COVID, which was sad, and this is the first one I've missed since I've been in the department. But we have a big family trip coming up. We'll be in Alaska for a couple of weeks. So.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm sure that everything will be in good hands, and really looking forward to that. 4th of July and Christmas Parade, of course, are two big events for our citizens, and we all look forward to that.
And Mayor, if I could just say that,
yes, sir.
You know, and I talked about the community gathering around us, but you know, I got to speak also to my command officers and to folks we have in the department. They're excellent. They're what makes it easy for me. I've got 3 great captains. The skill sets that they have, what they bring to the fire department, the love they have for their community, it's outstanding. It makes me proud to be their chief. So I sit up here as a figurehead talking to you all, but the guys, and men and women behind the scenes that are actually doing the work are pretty awesome.
Thank you for recognizing that. Okay, and while we're talking about 4th of July, I am reminded that next year is the 250th anniversary of Independence Day for our country. And so I think there are a number of groups that are starting to put together plans for a 250th anniversary celebration on the 4th of July. I think we ought to reach out to the county and see what they're doing. I know there's things going on at the state level. And so as we're, you know, about to celebrate this year, we should start thinking about next year, because that's a really important event, 250 years. I remember the bicentennial. Myself, I was not so old and had a lot more hair. We took a big trip to Washington, D.C., hot as blazes. But anyhow, we ought to start planning for that. And somebody has asked me if we're going to have a special committee here in the city of folks that are interested in engaging with the county and with the state on that 250th anniversary celebration. So any feedback on whether we might ought to put out a call for expressions of interest and maybe stand up a committee to, it'll be more than our normal, because we would be trying to engage, you know, with, other folks around it. So any thoughts on that? Do we want to do something like that, or do we want to think about it? let it ride till next meeting?
I think the executive director at the Heritage Center was also wanting to be involved in it as well, if we
Yeah.
do anything for that.
He's one of the ones that's mentioned it to me, so he's
Oh.
interested in that, and,
Fire departments.
yeah.
And
I mean, you know, so we let off 150 mortars at the same time last year, so maybe we'll do 250 next year. We've already got the best fireworks in the county, we got the best Christmas parade in the county, so we'll just step it up a little bit and have one of the best celebrations in the county.
I think maybe we should do a community of somebody from the fire department, maybe someone from the police department, of course, the recreation, and then whoever else in the community want to get together, maybe not, and just use what we already have. Instead of doing a thing, just have a representative from everybody that wants to be involved and have a planning session and see what the direction is everybody would like to go, or
Okay.
I
Yeah.
don't know how much bigger, I mean, it's, what, 6,000 to 10,000 people lining the streets and up at the visitor center.
Well, it's a good crowd already.
Yeah, so maybe if we had a couple more bands or something, I really don't know what else to.
Okay, I like that suggestion. Let's think about it between now and the next meeting, and we'll see what we might ought to do about it, so. Okay, sorry for that digression there. Let's go next to Commissioner Martin for the maintenance report, Commissioner of Streets and Maintenance.
well, the grass is looking wonderful as always. They do a wonderful job, our maintenance men, and keeping things up. We do need to talk about maybe putting a gutter, finished guttering the building here. We've gotten some pretty bad runoff. We also may need to look at putting some guttering up at the pavilion at the park. We're getting a lot of wash off on the walkway, and it is very slick and very dangerous. With all the rains we've had, it keeps washing off. The men keep going up there and cleaning it up, and it keeps washing the dirt back onto the patio there where the picnic tables are. So we may need to look at getting some quotes on guttering here and guttering up at the city park.
Okay.
Can we get some quotes on those things and go from there?
I think so.
Will we have to fix the ground like where it was like before? It's washed out.
Okay. I think that sounds like a good idea. So, city manager, if you can help to get us some quotes for guttering. I don't know if that's in our budget, but we would need to take a look at that.
I did add some to capital for the fiscal 26 budget, just for that, because we're going to need new computers, and we talked about that, so I budgeted a little bit in for our capital.
Okay.
Will we need gravel or landscape, dirt and landscaping, how will that get fixed? Because mulch and stuff is a little bit different price than gravel and stuff.
I'll turn that over to Mr. Jones and let him answer that.
At the park, we can, actually, when we get the gutter on, we can put a swell around it. We'll take a little gut, the rock for it, put it in there, but that won't be a whole lot, because it's not a big size. For around here, everything is just, mainly just grass, other than the front, so we're good on that. But I wanted to say, this is our busiest time of the year as far as mowing wise. I have been asked a lot of people on the bike trail about where to cross at, because we've been having a lot of people cross with kids and everything down here is really dangerous, and they ask where to go. And I was looking, and I don't even know if there's any signage that say there's a tunnel where you can go in there, so we probably need to get some signage up for that. And that's we don't want anything to happen like happened last year down here, so that's a big thing we need to look at.
I think that's a good point. When we talked about murals, that was one of the selling points of having a mural there was to try to raise awareness of the tunnels, but I think we also talked about signage or something, so we probably ought to revisit that. And I know we also need to talk about, once we get done with all the curb work and paving, to go and remark the crosswalks and stuff. And so down there at Old Tuckaleechee Road, that's one that I see quite often.
Right.
So But there are others, so I would say, remarking the crosswalks would be important too.
And I want to give a big shout out to the fire department. We did, me and my team did get CPR certified and stop the bleed, so thank y'all for putting that on. So we did get that done since we're out on the bike trail, and had that happen once before down there and seen it happen. So we really need that done.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Martin, anything else?
Also, we can put the bicycle route on the app. We can make sure that that's something that's,
Yes.
on that app this is the bicycle route, there's tunnels and how to access those. So it will also be a benefit of the app is our bicycle trails.
Do you have an AED for the guys when they're out or anything, just in case?
Just here in the building.
Question about AED? Commissioner Hendrick, who's your question directed to? City manager, chief stallion,
Just-
Commissioner Martin?
I didn't know how many,
Anybody?
I didn't know how many people usually carried them, but I didn't know if they're all out usually together, if we could put one in the truck, but I was just asking.
I always encourage more AEDs. The prices are definitely coming down on them. They still have some maintenance to them. They still have some liability to them. Your crew now knows how to use one, but you'll make sure the pads are up to date. You have to let the ambulance service know that you have one in case they need it. So there's a few things that I can help you if you want to do one, but just to keep up with it, to make sure that the battery's not dead and that the pads are still in date. But I mean, I definitely you get a pretty good one for about $1,400 right now. So.
Okay. Good discussion. Anything else for Commissioner Martin? Okay, thank you, Commissioner.
You're welcome, sir.
That brings us to building and codes report. I don't see the building inspector here.
Doug is on vacation this week, so he just wanted to let you know he's got 32 permits coming and business as usual, everything's so good.
Okay. All right, and codes report.
I've written a few letters about mowing yards and keeping up with the lawn, and still working on the sign on Old Tuckaleechee, which the sign isn't on, but the poster's still there. Still working on that.
All right, sounds good. This is not related to building or codes, maybe it's back on maintenance. I did see a new road cut. Looks like it's coming in below Myers Cemetery. Do we have any information on that?
The Bonandas got a T-Dot permit.
They got a T-Dot permit. What kind of, did we get any sort of notification about it?
No, they don't have to notify us whenever they're gonna have one, but they are working on a driveway permit
Right.
and grading ordinance, so once we get that in place, then they would have to come here as well.
Well, and the reason I'm coming back to that, Commissioners, is because that reminds me that we do have that driveway permit that would enable us to have some coordination with TDOT on those road cuts, as well as corridor management plan. So you all haven't heard too much about corridor management plan yet, but it's been raised at Planning Commission. And so a corridor management plan is where you work with TDOT and you look at the different road cuts and things across the corridor so that you have some sort of a coordinated plan about it. We do not have a corridor management plan, but we are no doubt on a corridor. And that corridor is very important to us because that is how people, access the bike paths. So whenever I see a road cut going in, first thing I look at is, well, that's another crossing of the bike path. And so we definitely need, in my opinion, a corridor management plan, and I'll be trying to advocate for that in the Planning Commission. But that road cut out there made me remember that that's something that we need to be thoughtful about. Because if we don't get thoughtful about it, we're going to end up like communities that just have roads, you only have like 3 or 4 sections of solid curb and everything else is a road cut. So we have to have something that makes sense to keep people safe and to also be able to access businesses and residents. So sorry for that digression. Vice Mayor Satterfield, can you give us the recreation report?
Yes, sir. Well, we had a excellent kickoff meeting for the Special People's Park on Friday with CEC. So I was very happy that we were able to get that kicked off. And what they're working on right now is a scope for us to look at for the park. So during that meeting, they heard, you know, wants and needs and what kind of services they would want from us, you know, like public input sessions, and we talked about funding opportunities, we talked about the vision for the park. So they should have a scope to me this week, and then I will share that with all of you hopefully next month or sooner. I want to give a shout out to our maintenance crew for installing 2 new park approved grills at the city park on Mountain Avenue. So I think that a lot of people use those, so thank you so much for that. And lastly, the board member seats for the Parks and Rec Board, we're going to put out a call for expressions of interest in July for the 2 seats. And you have to live in Townsend. You don't have to live in the city limits, but you do have to have a Townsend address, 3780 zip code, to apply for one of those seats. But we will put out a call for expressions of interest sometime in July and then fill those seats in August. So that's all I got.
Okay. Thank you very much. Commissioners, any questions?
Thanks, bingo.
Oh, goodness. Well, we talked about that at the meeting. And unfortunately, a lot of my board members have lots of plans this summer, so I'm kind of low on manpower to run bingo, because I need about 3 people to do it. So we made the decision to wait till September to start up bingo again. And I'm very sorry about that. It's just the way the dice was rolling.
If you need board of commissioners, we can help.
Okay, if y'all want to volunteer, then yeah, we will do it. I just need help popping popcorn and calling out numbers. So,
There's a good popper right there.
that's true. If I get enough volunteers to do it, then we'll do it. So you just let me know if you're willing.
Vice Mayor, I did get one more question from a citizen. Are we still collecting caps?
Well, yes, I put a pause on the Facebook page just because we have an overwhelming amount, don't we, Jason? And we had to move a lot of the bags out of this room up into another building behind the maintenance building. And so I think that we're very close to having the one picnic table. I didn't realize how overwhelming the caps would be, but if somebody brings caps in, I'm still gonna take them. I'm not gonna turn them away. So, but we took the barrel out of the lobby and put it in here for now, closed up. So I have been telling people I will make another Facebook post when we start collecting again. So some people are holding on to them. Some of them are still bringing them to me. But it's slowed down for now because we still need to sort them and go through them, and there's a lot.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Any other questions for Vice Mayor? To the community plan update, I'll just provide the update. The Community Plan Advisory Committee this afternoon reviewed the data chapter, and they're looking at all the different chapters at this point in the update of the community plan. There's some discussion about formatting and what's it supposed to look like. It was reported out that the first draft of the Parks and Rec Master Plan has been completed, so that's an important milestone as part of that process, and so that group will continue its work. So that's the update. Any questions on the community plan?
So can I get a draft copy of that from Ida?
I would suggest going through the chair, so ask Dave, so
Okay.
he'll get it from SC
All right.
Group.
Thank you.
Will that be posted online?
It will be posted at a certain point, so. Okay, moving on, Townsend Cades Cove Gateway Alliance, I don't see anyone from TCGA tonight, so we'll move on past that. That brings us down to public input for items on the agenda. So we're going to get the list and see who signed up to speak.
Jeff Riddle.
This is regarding your other business, adding residents back to B1. At the minimum, try to figure out how to keep the existing residents, like me, and 40-something other people that are in B1. We want to stay here, and we want to be able to rebuild in case of disaster. So I support that.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Riddle. Next.
Mike Gaither.
Thank you. Got several things. Like the app idea, think that your tax that you were talking about would more than pay for that, and it ties in together well since it would be related to tourism if you form the tourism authority. I think that's a wonderful idea. I like the idea of agenda item number 3 down there, the Parliamentarian, because there's a lot of what you all do that doesn't follow Robert's rules. For example, after your Pledge of Allegiance, there should be setting of the agenda on there that you all vote on, because as such, you have no agenda and anybody can get up and speak anytime they want to. So that's an important factor that you don't have there, that your parliamentarian might be able to help with. Now I see here that you're going to be choosing from among you to be the parliamentarian, and I'll tell you it's not an easy job because that's a big book, but you can get a cheat sheet and some tabs and be able to get to things very quickly, which can be very helpful. I also want to discuss Tennessee Code annotated 8-44-110 that requires you to publish a reasonable description of what you're going to be discussing. And I would argue that number 2, ordinance 347-25-1C, an ordinance amending the annual budget of the city of Townsend, Tennessee for fiscal year 2024-2025, second amendment amending the 25 budget to reflect changes that happened during the year. It doesn't describe the changes nor the amounts of money. That information may very well be available upon request, but the law is very specific that you have to publish it. It should have been available at the door or on your website. So that brings me to ordinance 346-25-1C. It's saying that this is a second reading of your budget. There was no first reading. There was no budget published available for the people to pick up. There's not one out here tonight nor on the website. It's very difficult for you to have a legal reading of a budget that you don't publish. And that's why that law exists. Reasonable description.
3 minutes, Mr. Baker. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next. Okay, that concludes all the speakers for public input on the agenda. Thank you for your input. Okay, Commissioners, that brings us down to new business, and the first item is a special event application for the Townsend 15K, 7K. This is a road race on September the 13th, 2025. It will go from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Location, Peaceful Side Social, and the organizer is the Knoxville Traffic Club. Let's see. Yeah, I think we're familiar with this event. Let me see what else I can tell you about it, and then we'll ask the event organizer to come up and give us some information. Let's see. Well, I think aside from anticipated attendance, 500 people, and there's not an admission charge to the public. Route is the same route as previous years, and it's listed here. So let me ask and see if we can, if you'd like to provide us with more information. Mr. Weatherby.
This is the 39th year of the Townsend 15K, so we're approaching an anniversary next year as well. It'll be 40 years that we'll end this race in Townsend. So the track club will be 64 years old next year. So for the bulk of the track club existence, we're holding a race in Townsend. So we're excited about it. Already have people signed up. We open registration way in advance, even though the permit process is closer to time. So people are excited about it. I was telling Commissioner Martin that this is one that people, especially our normal members, it's very difficult for us to get people outside of Knox County to travel for events, but this is one that they always travel for. So excited to bring it to Townsend.
Thank you very much. Let me see if I can get a motion in a second, and we'll get it up for discussion.
Make a motion.
Okay.
Second?
Okay, I've got a motion and a second. Commissioners, other questions?
We've had issues with spray painting.
Not us.
You have enough volunteers
We
that
we
for
have-
every turn you need them.
We consult with Chief Condi, and we will put, so we'll hire Polk County Sheriff to do major intersections, and then we consult with him on what intersections we need to put volunteers at, and then we have cones with arrows for the rest of it. I will come out typically on Friday and use actual like chalk that just washes off on anything that is uncertain for runners, but that's kind of a fun thing for us to do. We come out, make signs and motivational things, and just put arrows on. We do not spray, no painting, none of that, so.
Okay. Commissioners, any other questions? Okay. Call the question on this. All in favor of approving this special event application for the Townsend 15K, 7K on Saturday, September the 15th, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Application is approved.
Awesome, see you in September.
Thank you very much. Okay, Commissioners, let's go on to the next item on our agenda. This is Ordinance 347-25-1C, an ordinance amending the annual budget for the City of Townsend. It's a budget amendment for fiscal year 24-25. The second amendment amending the FY25 budget to reflect changes that happened during fiscal year. So Commissioners, you know this is a process that we have to undertake from time to time, and I'll ask City Manager to provide some overview on this budget amendment.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
On the ordinance, it's 346-24-1C. On our thing, it is 34.25-1C. So which one is the one on the paper, the correct?
They're both 347-25-1C.
The agenda I have has, this one is 347, and then the regular budget is 346.
Okay. Well, they have 24 on them and not 25. That's why I was,
Where does it say 20?
the ordinance here, but on the paper, the 34-224 on both of these, but on the agenda, it says 25.
Well, it should be 25. Mine says 25, I'm not sure.
Oh, this is the single sheet. That one's got a paper clip on it.
Okay.
Yes, just the second amendment for the current fiscal budget cycle that we're in. You'll see that we adjusted our sales and capital outlay. We had an original budget of $52,631, which was done as the first amendment from the sale of some of the police cars. Our amended budget is $69,236. That's a difference of $16,605. That's to allow for the sale of all the gov deals with maintenance department. That will cancel out down here under equipment purchase. Liability insurance, I increased that because we did have a premium increase. Our original budget was for $30,900, increased that to $41,813, for a difference of $10,913. The equipment purchase kind of offsets the sale of capital outlay. We had an original budget of $28,000 for maintenance. We ended up with our amended budget at $41,813. That was a difference of $16,007. Police vehicle maintenance I've actually lowered because it doesn't look like we're going to get to the original budget of $17,000, so I've lowered it to $13,000 because there's still has some stuff that they had to get this month. So that's a $4,000 difference. Bike trail maintenance, I had to increase that. We had originally budgeted for $7,400. The price on the porta potties went up for the year, so I amended the budget to $12,000, so that's a difference of $4,600 from the original budget. Miscellaneous revenue, I lowered. We had originally budgeted for $16,700. Our amended budget is $6,500 because we haven't done quite as much of the community rentals, things like that. Last year we got a check for $5,000 for that from that gentleman's severe wolf reason bike trail. We didn't get that this year, so that's a difference of $10,204. City attorney, we budgeted originally for $12,000. I amended the budget to $23,000 because we're currently at, I think, 21 is what the operating statement said, so that's a difference of $11,000. So the total use of fund balance, when you go through the numbers, is $28,891.07.
Okay, let me see if I can get a motion in a second. We'll get it up for discussion. I have a motion on ordinance 34725-1C.
Make a motion to accept ordinance number 347-25-1C.
Okay, can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second. Commissioners, you have these figures here. I'll just read it out here. Ordinance number 347-25-1C, an ordinance amending the annual budget for the city of Townsend, Tennessee for fiscal year 24-25 on the second amendment. Whereas Tennessee Code annotated Title 9, Chapter 1, Section 116 requires funds be appropriated before being expended and no appropriations may exceed available funds. Whereas Tennessee Code annotated Title 6, Chapter 56, Section 208 allows amendment of the budget ordinance in the same manner as any other ordinance may be amended. Whereas the city will incur additional expenditures not known when the original budget was passed, and whereas funds are not yet appropriated for these items, now therefore be it ordained by the Board of Commissioners of the City of Townsend, Tennessee, that Section 1 appropriations governing body appropriates the following. And City Manager just reviewed the figures here. Section 3, submission to the Director of Local Finance. This amendment will be submitted to the Director of Office of State and Local Finance as required by state statute to show continued compliance with the requirements of Tennessee Code annotated Title 9, Chapter 21, Section 403 to maintain a balanced budget. Okay, any further questions? Okay, all in favor of approving this ordinance, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Abstain.
Abstain.
For previous reasons.
Okay, let me do a roll call here. Commissioner Martin.
Approve.
Mayor Prater, aye. Vice Mayor Satterfield,
Abstain.
abstain. Commissioner Hedrick,
Abstain.
And what is the rationale for the abstention?
Because the public hasn't seen this either handed out or online.
Is that the same for you, Commissioner Satterfield?
For, yes, because we didn't have this available for the public beforehand, or I know they can ask for it, but my understanding is that it should be available for the meetings, like during the meetings for the public.
Okay. Commissioners, you all have received advice from city attorney. You've received a legal memo from city attorney on the state statute. And the state statute does not require that these documents be posted on our website or published or handed out. That is not part of the requirement by the state. Let me read here. Tennessee Code annotated 8-44-110, signed into law by Governor Lee on May the 5th, 2025, requires municipalities shall make the agenda available to the public 48 hours before the meeting. The agenda must reasonably describe the matters to be deliberated. Materials related to the agenda are available for inspection at City Hall prior to our meetings. Indeed, we have people request items frequently. We check with the city attorney, we check with the Municipal Technical Advisory Service, MTAS, and both advise us on these policies and procedures, and they have found that there is no requirement to publish online the meeting materials in advance of the meeting. While some bodies might have that practice, it would require resources that the city does not have at this time. Clearly, it is not required. And you received a memo from the city attorney on June the 10th that clarifies these requirements. We cannot move forward with 2 votes on this budget amendment. City manager, what's the consequence if we don't move forward with this?
Well, I would say, our budget will be, we've not appropriated what we're spending, so it'll affect this future budget going in as well. And if we don't have the second reading of this budget tonight, if you want to do another called second meeting, public hearing, we still have to post 10 days prior in the newspaper. The budget's due to the state budget authority. If we don't get it in, don't get it approved, we can have the comptroller come in, and then we have to run every expenditure that's by them.
We've consulted with MTAS, we've consulted with the city attorney.
Yes, I talked to Commissioner Carrier yesterday specifically about this, and she said that there was nowhere where it's required to put the meeting packet online, or you could have it available, people could come and request it, but we're only required to put the agenda, because the state changed the language from a municipality may post an agenda on their website to shall website, but it does not say anything about the meeting packet.
Okay, let me ask Commissioners Hedrick and Commissioner Satterfield. We've read the law. We've requested the city attorney to give us guidance. We've requested MTAS to give us guidance. What is leading you to believe that this is not, what guidance do you have? Are you talking to somebody from the state controller's office? Or who are you talking to that is telling you this is not allowed?
I've just seen other cities that put their information on the website. So if we could put it on the website and have it at the door when you're coming in, and I don't see what the problem is having it available for the public to see.
There are a lot of things that we'd like to do. We are a small city. We have 553 residents, and we have to do our very best by those residents with the resources and with the time that we have. I think we're all aware of how constrained our city staff resources have been. It may be that we reach a point in time that we could do some of the nice-to-haves. I don't disagree that it would be nice to have, but I'm not aware that it is required. But I am aware that there are serious consequences for the city and our compliance with state law, and I haven't heard any justification legally other than it's a nice to have. So I'll ask you again, what's your legal justification for abstaining and not voting on this?
My apologies, I did not know you had talked to MTS. I didn't know that you had talked to Angie either.
Well, I mean, she just reiterated what the attorney said.
Can we revote?
We might be able to put it up again and take another vote. Commissioner Hedrick, what legal advice or what legal basis are you making this statement about?
It's a very vague wording to me.
Serious trouble when we don't follow the law, when we don't follow the advice of city attorney, when we don't follow the advice of the Municipal Technical Advisor Service. We are not a huge organization. I don't know where else we can reach out to get this guidance. If you have a legal basis, please tell me what it is. That's the question. Is there a legal basis?
I think I'm allowed to vote the way I want to vote.
Okay, I'll ask and see if there's a motion again. And try again on this one. Can I have a motion to approve ordinance 347-25-1C? An ordinance amending the annual budget for the city of Townsend, Tennessee for fiscal year 2024-2025.
Point of order.
On second
Point
amendment,
of order.
amending the 25 budget to reflect changes that have happened during the fiscal year.
Make a motion to accept the ordinance number 347-25-1C.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, well, is there any discussion on this ordinance 347-25?
Not legal, sir.
Officer, please remove this gentleman.
That's not legal. Only the prevailing side can call for something to be revisited. If you'd read and have a parliamentarian, you would know that, but that is not legal. You can't do that.
Commissioners, we have a motion and a second on the table. It's important that we follow good procedures, and it's important that we are transparent. I want to make double sure that we're following all the requirements, so I'm going to suggest that we table this motion. It's with great regret that we do that, that I would do that, until we can get some legal advice.
Postpone it.
What's that?
You need to postpone it, because if you table it, you have to pick it up in the same meeting.
Okay, I'll amend that, we'll postpone that. So we're going to postpone this, but I have serious concerns when we get the best legal advice that we can get, and we refuse to follow it in the face of anything that sounds like it's to the contrary. It prevents us from complying with the law. We need to pass this amendment to be able to comply with the law and to do our best for the residents of the city of Townsend. We cannot be badgered. We cannot be berated. We cannot be subject to misinformation and nonsense. Now, if we receive that type of information, then we have to be able to see through it. We have to be able to seek the best advice that we can get, and we have to trust that advice and to be able to act on it. But I have real concerns if there are purveyors of misinformation and nonsense that are impacting our ability to get our work done. And this is a prime example. I don't know how much more legal advice we can get. And if we pay for all this legal advice at the expense of our citizens, and we don't listen to it, then we're not doing our best for our citizens. So we'll postpone this motion, and we'll move on in our agenda. Next item on our agenda is Parliamentarian for the Board of Commissioners. And so I put this item on the agenda because I do think it would be a good idea for us to assign a parliamentarian, perhaps from the Board of Commissioners, for this meeting so that we can ensure that all the proper procedures are met using Robert's Rules of Orders and our bylaws. Now, we can begin to do something like this, I think, probably informally. My sense is we could probably even benefit from some training on this so that we all understand what the requirements are for a parliamentarian. It's important that we follow good procedures. We work in the best way that we can for our citizens. We try to be transparent and we try to follow good processes. It doesn't mean we're immune to making mistakes, but I want to try to avoid making any mistakes to the greatest extent possible. And I do think having a parliamentarian would be helpful for us. If we could pick one of our number to serve as parliamentarian, I think that would be useful. And we might even have to enlist or hire a parliamentarian to help us be able to, get started on this. So I'd like to hear your thoughts and opinions on that. I'm aware that we've got nearly all the commissioners are wearing multiple hats. So I do the mayor, I'm the commissioner of police. Kelsey, you're the vice mayor and the commissioner of Parks and Rec. Randy, you're the commissioner of streets and maintenance. Commissioner Jenkins also serves on the planning committee. I serve on the planning committee. Commissioner Hedrick, I think this would be a great opportunity for you to consider. But I'd be interested in your feedback, and if your feedback is positive on this, I'll work with city manager to try to do that, and we'll get something more formal at a subsequent meeting. We do have different roles that are spelled out in our city charter, so we can get some guidance on whether we want this to be a formal role. I'm sort of thinking it should be. But we'll try to make sure that whether it's formal or informal, we can move forward on it. So I'll pause and see if y'all have thoughts on that.
I think it is very needed. I know Commissioner Kenny Myers did this in the past when he was sat as a commissioner. That was his role.
He might be able to kind of help with that, he knows Robert's rules, if you're willing.
I think it's very needed as well.
Okay. All right, so city manager, if you can help us to get organized on that, and I think that the things that we would need is to be able to have this on the agenda for our next meeting and see if we can select one of our number to become the parliamentarian, and we can work with city attorney to see if there's a way to amend our charter so that we can make this a more formal position, like we do have these portfolios for other things. And then also if you could investigate what it would take to potentially hire somebody, maybe for a few meetings to help us get started with the parliamentarian.
If we're gonna have a call meeting to do the budget, anything, can we add that to it as well?
I think we could add that to any next meeting of the Board of Commissioners. Okay, Commissioners, that brings us down to item from a commissioner. Commissioner Hedrick, I think these are your items. And I'll try to take these one by one, but I'll open it up for discussion and welcome your input on that.
The first one is an agreement between the Blood Partnership and the City of Townsend for special events. What we voted on was giving you permission to negotiate further. I don't think we actually voted on the actual agreement, as that's something that we could do now.
I was under the impression that we were proceeding with signatures and everything at that meeting. That was my understanding, that we were agreeing at that meeting to proceed with the terms that Becca came to us with and to go ahead and sign those. That was that commission meeting, that was my understanding, was we were signing the agreement with the partnership. That was what my understanding was.
My understanding was that as well, unless the mayor had came back with different terms, in which we would have had to have met again and went over any new terms or any changes, but I don't think anything was changed
That's right.
in the memo that we had that day.
So let me recount a little history here. So on March the 29th, 2025, City Council reviewed and discussed and received public input on the parameters of the agreement for coordination with the Smoky Mountain Tourism Development Authority regarding the visitors and event centers located in Townsend. At that meeting, the City Council approved a motion for the mayor to enter into such an agreement. I signed the agreement on March the 30th, 2025. The Blunt Partnership's Smoky Mountain Tourism Development Authority Board of Directors reviewed and approved the agreement at its April the 8th meeting, and copies of the arrangement are available through records request at City Hall. Section 3.5 of our city charter provides the authority for the mayor to execute all deeds, bonds, and contracts made in the name of the city and to perform all acts that might be required of the mayor by any ordinance or resolution duly enacted or adopted by the Board of Commissioners. It does not require that the mayor consult with the Board of Commissioners prior to entering into contracts, although I found that to be a good practice, particularly when such arrangements could have broad implications for the city and be of considerable public interest. And so accordingly, the process we followed was transparent and allowed public input and input from the Board of Commissioners on the key elements of the arrangements. It was also in full compliance with our city charter, as affirmed again by the city attorney. And so what was voted on was a motion for me to enter into the agreement with the parameters that we discussed. And those parameters that were discussed did not change, as Commissioner Satterfield noted.
So then that wraps in with number 3, the meeting minutes. For the call vote. I guess when we voted, everyone heard yes, but based on not hearing a no or an abstention, I thought Pat voted yes for that. But then the city managers said,
Okay, let's take them one at a time. Are we finished on number 1?
evidently. Yeah.
Any questions or further discussion on item number 1? let's move on to item number 2.
Well, number 3 is kind of wrapped into that, associated with
Let's
that.
move to item number 3. Item number 3, meeting minutes of March 29, 2025, call meeting. Further discussion on the vote. On April 15, 2025, this is our last meeting, the Board of Commissioners reviewed and approved the minutes of our meeting on March 29, 2025. Commissioner Martin made a motion to approve the minutes, which was seconded by Vice Mayor Satterfield. Commissioner Jenkins requested that the word contract be replaced by agreement, and the motion was passed contingent upon the amendment with 5 yea votes. That was approving the minutes. So these minutes were approved on March the 29th. March 29th, a special call meeting of the Board of Commissioners to review the arrangement and special events, that's the one we just discussed. During the meeting, Commissioner Martin made a motion to authorize the mayor to enter into the agreement with the Blunt Partnership based upon the points shared with the commissioners. The motion was seconded by Vice Mayor Satterfield and passed with 4 yea votes. Commissioner Jenkins did not cast a vote. Accordingly, the minutes of the meeting on March 29, 2025 were approved transparently and are accurate, and they are posted on our website.
We changed the minutes, and then when Will said that we couldn't change the minutes afterwards based on a vote. That is why I brought that up.
Okay.
Because to me, I did not think that he abstained or voted no or did not vote because it was not brought up at the time.
Okay, but I think we clarified that and the minutes are accurate.
Okay, number 2.
Okay. Number 2, first reading of the FY26 budget done on May 20th, 2025 meeting. Discussion on the process and procedure. On May 15th, 2025, the City of Townsend announced the publication of our agenda on our website for the May 2025 meeting of the Board of Commissioners. Tennessee Code Annotated 8-44-110, signed into law by Governor Lee on May the 5th, 2025, requires that municipalities shall make the agenda available to the public 48 hours before the meeting. The agenda must reasonably describe the matters to be deliberated. Materials related to the agenda were available for inspection at City Hall prior to our meetings, as they customarily are, and indeed we have folks that come by to request them. We check with City Attorney, we check with Municipal Technical Advisory Service, MTAS, who advises us on policies and procedures, and have found that there is no requirement to publish online all the meeting materials in advance of the meeting. While some bodies may have that practice, it would require resources that the city does not have at this time. Clearly, it is not required. A memo from the City Attorney was shared with Board of Commissioners on June 10, 2025 to clarify the requirements. Accordingly, our vote on first reading of the FY26 budget was conducted transparently and met the requirements of the law.
Number 4.
Any discussion on number 2? Is that satisfactory?
Questions or comments on that after we received the email from Will that clarified for me.
Email from the City Attorney clarified it
Yes,
for you.
yes, sir.
Okay. Let's move on to number 4. Approval of Board of Zoning Appeals members at the January 3rd, 2025 called meeting. On January 3rd, 2025, the City of Townsend Board of Commissioners met to review expressions of interest for a seat on the Planning Commission and the Board of Zoning Appeals. During the meeting, the Board of Commissioners undertook a process to elicit feedback to the mayor, who has appointed members of the Planning Commission, and also received feedback to select a member of the BZA. The process that was undertaken was different from our usual process, and I've asked City Attorney to review it and provide a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners for any remedies that might need to be taken to ensure that we're in compliance with state laws and our bylaws. Having good processes in a transparent way is important for us to make good decisions and ensuring openness and transparency that our citizens expect. So I've asked City Attorney to take a look at that and to give us recommendations on any remedies that we need to make, because we did take a different process than we usually take.
And I thought we couldn't do secret ballots.
There is, City Attorney has guided us on the fact that secret ballots are not allowed.
So do we need to go ahead and redo a vote for the BZA members?
I think we should wait for guidance on City Attorney for that, because we need to take a look at the process that was actually used. So if you go back and look at the meeting minutes we actually did, I think end up voting on the person after that. So I've asked City Attorney to take a look at that just to make sure he's aware of what process we followed. And if it was not the right process, then we will need to take remedies against that. I mean, we try our very best to do this. We try to follow Robert's rules. Of course, we try to follow the state laws, and we must follow the state laws. We're not infallible. And so we need to take a look at that, and if there is something we need to do on that, then we'll get a recommendation from City Attorney, and I'll bring that back to Board of Commissioners. Okay, let's move down to unfinished business. It is ordinance 346-25-1C, an ordinance of the City of Townsend, Tennessee, adopting our annual budget for fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2025, and ending June 30th, 2026. This is second reading, and this is a public hearing that was published in the Daily Times on June the 5th. And this is the adoption of the proposed operating and capital budget of the City of Townsend.
The ordinances on these are different from what's on the agenda
Okay.
than what's printed on my 2 pages.
All right, let's double check the ordinance number.
So it should be 2.5 and not 2.4. Okay.
So this is ordinance number 346-25. Please make that change on your copy. -1C. Okay, this is second reading, so I'll read it. Whereas Tennessee Code Annotated 9-16-116 requires that all funds of the state of Tennessee and all of its political subdivisions shall first be appropriated before being appropriated and expended, and that only funds that are available shall be appropriated. And whereas the municipal budget law of 1982 requires that the governing body of each municipality adopt and operate under an annual budget ordinance presenting a financial plan with at least the information required by the state statute, that no municipality may expend any monies regardless of the source except in accordance with a budget ordinance, and that the governing body shall not make any appropriation in excess of estimated available funds. And whereas the Townsend Board of Commissioners has published the annual operating budget and budgetary comparisons of the proposed budget with the prior year actual and the current year estimated in a newspaper of general circulation not less than 10 days prior to the meeting where the board will consider the final passage of the budget. Now, therefore, be it ordained by the Board of Commissioners of the City of Townsend, Tennessee, as follows. Section 1, that the governing body projects anticipated revenues from all sources and appropriates planned expenditures for each department, board, office, or other agency of the municipality herein, presented together with the actual annual receipts and expenditures of the last preceding fiscal year and the estimated annual expenditures for the current fiscal year, and from those revenues and unexpended and unencumbered funds as follows for fiscal year 2026, and including the projected ending balances for the budget year, the actual ending balances for the most recent ended fiscal year, and the estimated ending balances for the current fiscal years. And you'll see a budget table that is provided in section 1 that continues on to the next page. Section 2, at the end of the fiscal year 2025, the governing body estimates fund balances or deficits as follows. And you'll see a table there. Section 3, that the governing body herein certifies that the condition of its sinking funds, if applicable, are compliant pursuant to its bond covenants and recognizes that the municipality has outstanding bonded and other indebtedness as follows. And there's a budget table. Section 4, during the coming fiscal year, the governing body has planned capital projects and proposed funding as follows. And there's another budget table. Section 5, no appropriation listed may be exceeded without an amendment of the budget ordinance as requested by the Municipal Budget Law of 1982, Tennessee Code Annotated 6-56-208. In addition, no appropriation may be made in excess of available funds except to provide for an actual emergency threatening the health, property, or lives of the inhabitants of the municipality and declared by a 2/3 vote of at least a quorum of the governing body in accord with the Tennessee Code Annotated 6-56-205. Section 6, a detailed financial plan will be attached to this budget and become part of this budget ordinance. Section 7, the annual operating and capital budget ordinance and supporting documents shall be submitted to the Comptroller of the Treasury or Comptroller's designee for approval pursuant to Title IX, Chapter 21, Tennessee Code Annotated within 15 days of its adoption. If the Comptroller of the Treasury or the Comptroller's designee determines that the budget does not comply with the statutes, the governing body shall adjust its estimates or make additional tax levies sufficient to comply with the statutes or as directed by the Comptroller of the Treasury or Comptroller's designee. All unencumbered balances, Section 8, all unencumbered balances of appropriations remain at the end of the fiscal year lapse and revert to the respective fund balances. Section 9, all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with any provisions of this ordinance are hereby repealed. Section 11, this ordinance shall take effect July the 1st, 2025, the public welfare requiring it. And then we have the budget tables that have been published and you all have reviewed on first reading.
Excuse me, Mayor, can I just point out something? I noticed that section 10 is missing off of this version that levies the tax rate at 0, so I'll add that. And you can
Okay.
sign the correct version.
Section 10 is missing. Yes. Can you read it out?
I don't have the exact verbiage, but it's levying a tax rate of 0.00%.
Okay.
Section 10. Property tax.
And we've read it before.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was in the first reading.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, Commissioners. May I get a motion and a second to approve our ordinance adopting the annual budget for fiscal year July 1st, 2025 and ending June 30th, 2026. This is ordinance 34625-1C.
I make a motion to accept ordinance number 346-25-1C.
Okay, may I get a second?
Second.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second. Any questions? I would say this is as amended with adding section 10. Is that acceptable to the motioners?
Yes. Please.
I'll give you one more minute to look it over. Okay. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed?
Abstain.
Okay, Commissioner Hedrick abstains. We've got Commissioner Martin, Prater, Satterfield, aye. Commissioner Hedrick abstains. Commissioner Hedrick, what's your rationale for the abstention?
Same as before.
I couldn't hear you. Can you use the microphone?
Same as before. The budget notice was on the website, it's been on there since June 5th,
Okay. So
with where the calendar of events, where the meeting notices are, so all the graphs with all the numbers have been on our website since June 5th.
Okay, so in this case, we actually did put this on the website. It's been on there since June the 5th.
I put the newspaper publication for required to do 10 days prior to the second hearing, or the second reading of the public hearing.
Okay, it's approved. All right, Commissioners, let's go to the next item on our agenda. This is the TDOT right-of-way agreement. I previewed this at our last meeting, and you all had a chance to see this. This is a new agreement that with TDOT for licensing to maintain certain right-of-way in State Highway 73 and 337 within the city limits of the city of Townsend. As you all know, we've had a license agreement with TDOT for parts of the right-of-way for quite some number of years, and I think it was actually circulated our current agreement.
This was just for the bike trail, correct? Current agreement?
The 2013 version that I found was for the bike trail.
Okay.
Right.
I'd like to make a motion to have a workshop with TDOT so that they can explain it more to us, because there's a lot of new things in there.
I have reached out to the attorney, and he hasn't gotten back with me about some questions I had about some of the verbiage in this license agreement. To me, there's some red flags in here that could cost the city and the citizens down the road, and I'm concerned about that. I have the verbiage, so I'm kind of.
Yeah, let's go ahead and flag the verbiage that you think is concerning.
I guess one of the questions is, before we said that we were going to maintain the bike trail, why are we trying to do additional things if we don't have much of a budget, or we don't have much, if our workers are busy and everything else, why are we wanting to do more? Because there's a lot more in here than what was in it before. And I just wanted to find out what other items those are.
Okay, let's have some discussion, and I'm not opposed to a workshop. Commissioner Martin, you indicated there's some areas in here that gave you some concern, just so that we can make sure we have it addressed by the time we.
Can I point something out really quickly before we go over that? Is there supposed to be a page 4 to this? I have written down, on the other draft that we were given last month, there was like number 18, because I had written down a reversion section, because that was newly added, but this only goes to 13. So were there changes between last month and this month?
For the new one?
Yeah.
For the new one, there's
Because
6
I don't-
pages.
Because I don't see.
The front and back.
Wanna look through that?
Yeah,
I think what's in our packet might be missing a page.
yeah, but where's the revert?
It looks like it goes from page 3 to page 6.
Yeah,
What's
there's,
in our packet?
right, so numbers 14 through 22.
Yeah.
13, well, I'm sorry, 14 through 22 on this one. This is the one that we had
Yeah.
last month. And it's got like fire hazard, traffic controls in the other one. Let's see, improvement section, reversion section. There was a lot of additions, that version.
What I would,
I'm sorry.
yeah, I think we've got the current agreement and we've received the previous agreement. And so as we move toward having a further discussion on it, if you could highlight, maybe we don't need to do it tonight, but if there are certain sections in the agreement that you want to have further discussion on or have some concern about, go ahead and highlight those with any questions, and that way we can ask TDOT or get some additional agreements. So we do currently have a license agreement with TDOT for the bike trail, which goes on the right-of-way. Part of the rationale for this is that that previous agreement didn't include the results of the what the right-of-way is after the property buyback. So there was a period of time which TDOT allowed property owners to go back and buy portions of property back from the right-of-way. And one of the things that y'all will recall is that there's a series of maps. And so having those maps is really important to the city so that we understand exactly what area is included. And it's a little variable because some property owners bought that and some property owners didn't. But I'll just say that part of the rationale for having the agreement with TDOT about the maintenance of the bike trail is because that is such an important feature for our city. Our city is long and skinny. We've heard from a number of our residents how important the bike path is and the right-of-way. We've even had a visitor, I think last year, donate $5,000 just because they like to ride on the bike path. And we mow out there already. That's the face of our city. When somebody says the grass looks nice and green, I think we all sit up in our chairs, and that's something that we're already doing to a great extent. But it's important to the city to have a clear understanding of what our responsibilities are. One of the things I'd also just say, and the reason I'm bringing this to you, is because TDOT doesn't have resources to closely manage the right-of-way. They're in charge of managing street and highway right-of-ways all throughout the state. And even though there might be things, for example, signs that are not allowed in the right-of-way, they have indicated to us that there is no interest, no resource, no bandwidth to do any sort of enforcement. Even though that's the rule, that's the law, they're not able to and don't plan on ever doing anything in the right-of-way. And we have heard from our residents, we've heard from some of these current commissioners that there should be no signs, nothing in the right-of-way. And we have adapted a lot of our ordinances to try to facilitate that. And so being able to have this right-of-way as it goes through Townsend in our portfolio, it will require some resources, but I don't suspect it's a significant amount more resources. We'll have to, maybe that's a good question for the workshop, to see if there's any additional resources that are going to be required beyond what we're already doing. But having that authority to be able to take action in the right-of-way is quite important to our citizens. I'm convinced. All those people that come and tell me, hey, there's a sign in the right-of-way, that's not allowed. Somebody's parking a car trailer in the right-of-way, that's not allowed. Well, if we're going to do something in the right-of-way, we need to have the ability to do that, and that's what this type of agreement would allow us. I don't think it's a significant amount of resources beyond what we're already doing, but I'm happy to entertain those questions.
One of the main things, it says, Whereas the licensee desires to use a portion of the licensed premises to maintain an existing bicycle and walking trail on 73. The new one says, to use and maintain the rights of way. So the question is, what does use mean? I know I've heard from some people, there are a lot of businesses along 321, but there's also a lot of residents along 321. So it's like, with all these festivals, is the city going to try to come and park cars on the right of way in front of your house? I mean, is the city going to try to use the right of way for certain things for them? Is a valid question. And some of those things need to be, because going from maintaining a bike trail to use, what does that mean?
Yeah, I would understand that. We can ask that question. I've never heard anybody suggest that the city would start parking cars on the right of way. But what I have heard, well, there's possible and then there's probable. So it might be possible, but it's not very probable that the city would decide to undertake a parking venture in front of residences using the right of way. As a matter of fact, I don't think that would even be allowed, because no cars are allowed to park on the right of way. What uses that we have are the bike trail. When we put benches in the right of way, that's a use of the right of way. If we plant a tree, that's a use of the right of way. If we make a street light, that's a use of the right of way. And so I think we would be looking to use the right of way for the benefit of our citizens. I think it would take, quite some measures to use it, or misuse it. We're already using the right of way well beyond maintaining the bike path.
I think if we can get it defined a little bit more, that would help put some people at ease, because if it's very vague, you don't know. But there is a lot of new things in here that wasn't in there before.
Okay, well, what I would ask is that commissioners send to city manager your questions and your flags. You've gotten the copy of the existing agreement. You've gotten a copy, full copy. Apologies for not having a page in the packet tonight. But you received a copy of the current proposed right-of-way agreement. And we'll have a workshop on it, and we'll discuss it to the best extent that we can. And I think, this is largely in the benefit of the residents of the city of Townsend, how we're trying to manage this, as I've explained tonight. So happy to have a
One of my things was number 7, maintenance. The cost of any maintenance, operation of improvement shall be the sole expense of the licensee, which would be us. And it says we would have to have all the bridges inspected, and that would probably be the bypasses for the bike trail, the underpasses, and that would fall under us paying for that, from what I read from this agreement. And then over on number 11, licensee shall be liable for any damage to state property resulting from licensee use of licensed premises or installation, operation of improvement, including but not limited to roadway, shoulders, guardrail, drainage, landscape signs, controlled access fence. All repairs or replacement of such damage shall be made in accordance with current TDOT standards for road, bridges, and construction. My thing is, if somebody hits the guardrail, our maintenance men are not equipped or have the access to replace a guardrail. So we would be having to probably source that from outside if we're responsible. And from how I read that, we would be responsible for those things. That's where I'm looking at cost. Right now, we take care of the grass, but they still clean out the drainage facilities for us. They come in and clean those out. We don't have the equipment to clean those drainages out. If that is our responsibility, we would have to either buy the equipment or hire those things out. So I'm looking from the cost of some things that are in here that TDOT has took care of in the past, but it seems like if we sign this agreement with them, we will be taking on a lot more cost to the city and to our citizens.
And also snow removal. No disrespect to you all, but our TDOT guys do amazing up here. I mean, we have better roads than Maryville and Alcoa, so I don't want to give that up. And our guys can do our city streets and have nice streets for everyone up here, so.
Well, my understanding on this arrangement is that that's similar to what is in the current agreement. And the TDOT has continued to maintain our drains, our guardrails, under the current agreement, but we'll clarify that. And I don't know if we can get somebody from TDOT to participate in the workshop or not, but we'll ask. Where it comes to installing those things, I read that section, and I think it's if we decide to put in a guardrail and it doesn't meet the state standards, then we have to fix it back the way it was or put in a state standard guardrail. But before we would do something like that, I think we would be either communicating with TDOT, but nevertheless, we can get those points clarified, and we'll have a workshop on that. It gives one more opportunity for public input and transparency on that. So again, before I sign or enter into an agreement, I want to consult and make sure that we're getting all the input that we can. So. All right, Commissioners, that brings us down to the second opportunity for public input. This is public input not on the agenda. Have anybody signed up to speak? Okay. All right, let's move on to other business. Adding residents back to B1 zone tourist district in Townsend zoning regulations section 8-604.
Okay, both of these, I asked Ayla to put on there. I know when we changed the zoning verbiage, we took out residents from the B1 districts, and in our workshop earlier in the year, we talked about that would be a quick, easy fix to add back, because now if a house burns down, you can't go back. And I've got a lot of citizens curious about that and wanted that to be added back in. And we talked about it earlier in the year, let's just get it done.
Okay.
Actually, residential housing should be in every zone.
Yeah, I think that's another good reason. We need to encourage, not disincentivize as many residences as we can. I'm supportive of putting houses back into B1. We were advised that that has to start in the Planning Commission, so we can ask the Planning Commission to give us a recommendation to put that back into B1, and we can try to make sure that we get that on the, as a matter of fact, I think we were thinking about that for a future Planning Commission item.
I know they were in our workshop, and then a couple of months ago, I talked to the Chairman Talley, and he said, yeah, that's a great idea, but yet nothing's happened yet,
Yeah,
so.
we talked with Chairman Talley, and he was under the impression we could just take it up right away at Board of Commissioners and make the change. But when we investigated that, in fact, it has to start in the Planning Commission, but I'm happy to make
Can I
sure.
make a motion that it gets sent to the Planning Commission next month?
I think that'd be fine. If we refer that item to the Planning Commission, may I get a second?
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Can we get it on our July agenda? Or on our agenda?
It has to come from the Planning Commission first, and so I assume that
But
if
do they have to approve it?
well, generally, they would make a recommendation, and if they don't make a recommendation, then we can still take it up.
Okay,
So-
can we go ahead and put it on our agenda though? Because I think this is important.
I think it's important too. So if there's a way to put it on there, following our good process, I think we'll endeavor to do it. But, okay, so we have a motion and a second to refer this item to the Planning Commission. We had discussion. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Okay, none opposed, that motion is passed, and we'll refer that one to the planning commission.
So you're looking at me to post. Okay, so the second thing in there, this has to stem from the yonder development. I think the community was kind of shocked that they came in and was definition of a hotel. So this would be to move hotels out of B1 and put them in the B3 category, similar to campgrounds. Because right now, it's allowed in B1, and B1 is everywhere.
Okay. This looks like something that the planning commission could come up and discuss as well, so I would be happy.
Motion?
You can. So you make a motion to move hotels, to have it, refer this item to the planning commission that involves moving hotels from B1 to B3.
Yes.
Okay, I've got a motion, to have a second?
Second.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this one?
I would like to see what Kim has to say and how that will affect the city as a whole, moving that around. So I'm going to sustain until I know what his approach would be.
Okay, we can make sure to get advice from the city planner. He regularly attends the planning commission. So,
I do think it's strange that hotels are in B1 and campgrounds are in B3. So we might want to look at B3 a little further as well, because
yeah.
it's been confusing for me personally for many months how the B3 zone's working. Because I don't know, I just think it's strange to have hotels in B1 and campgrounds in B3.
Yeah, the title of B1, I think, is Tourist Business District. It's a tourist business district, I guess, was envisioned to include all things that would cater to tourists, which would include hotels and restaurants and things like that. B3 was envisioned as highway business district and its high-intensity uses. Now, you know, it's probably worth, you could discuss that. I'm sure this will get lots of discussion. But I think that, at least that's the history. I'm not defending it one way or the other, but that's the history on.
But if you look, how many residents do we have that are B1s?
I counted about 46.
So to have the ability to just say, yes, hotel can be right there in the middle of all these residences, a little, I think
Yeah.
our communities,
Yeah, I think the counterpoint would be that these property owners have B1 property and they have residences in the middle of it. So I think it's a fine discussion to have, and I think the planning commission is the place to have it. Okay, so we got a motion and a second to refer this one to the planning commission. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we'll refer that one to the planning commission as well.
And I'm sustaining.
And abstain, sorry, let me make sure we've got it. Abstain from Commissioner Martin, and aye from Prater, Satterfield, and Petter. Okay. Okay, Commissioners, longest meeting tonight, but I appreciate your diligence in following all of our items. And I am quite concerned that we weren't able to pass our budget amendment, so we will get any further advice and try to get a special call meeting.
can we go ahead and schedule a special call meeting since it needs to be 10 days in advance?
The budget amendment, we don't have to do a public hearing on. That's just voting in with the public, the fiscal year budget. But the amendment just takes two readings.
But the thing that we postponed, can we get a workshop? Go ahead and put that in the paper to get it on the agenda since we need to get it done by the end of the month.
The one that we postponed is just a housekeeping ordinance for the current budget.
But we need it by the end of the month, correct?
No, because the second reading would have been in July. That I'll have to contact Tom Crow, let them know that we're not there so that we're not violating budget, because it'll show that we're not appropriating money that we spent when they look at the budget.
But can we do a workshop and get it taken care of?
Can we have an extra call meeting?
Call meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, let's get the advice on what we have to do now. I'm not sure we've run into this situation before where we sort of refused to approve our budget amendment, or unable to approve our budget amendment. So we'll get advice, and, you know, of course, we want to be compliant and do the best work we can for our citizens, and if we need to call another meeting, we'll figure out when is the best time to call it. Okay, commissioners, that's all for our agenda. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second?
Okay, I got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?